most of the time I live with me at the center of the universe. In a given day, the tens of thousands of thoughts that I have, they're mostly about me. I am the center of my own universe, and adoration is really important because it sets the stage for the reality of how the whole wide world works. At least that's how I think about it.
It's almost like this portal to a deeper level of presence with the God of all creation and with ourselves. The Creator actually wants to hear from us, all of it. The lament to the petition, to the confession, to adoration, and everything in between.
Welcome to the Follow-Up Podcast, a podcast that believes at its core the single most important oriented belief that if Jesus was right about God and life and the human soul, then it would make sense that we rearrange our lives around what he said is true. So that's what we're exploring. All that Jesus said was true and how to rearrange our lives around it. I am excited about where we're headed. We're doing this little mini series in the podcast talking about prayer, and this is going to be good. Yeah. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I think the prayer guides have just been amazing. I mean,
good. I've had so many people. For those of you that maybe aren't aware, you can check in the in our notes. We have a prayer guide. It's a 5-week study. And this study just walks you through specific practices of prayer. And they are 5 very distinct practices. And what's going to be cool over the next 5 weeks of our podcast, we're going to touch on each of these practices, how to pray. So if you're interested in checking out the guide, you're able to do that in the notes. But yeah, it really has been foundational, and I think I've been surprised by how many people have said, I don't know how to pray. You know, I don't. Yeah. I have no clue how to pray. I mean, we know how to pray, maybe a singular type of prayer, but in general, I don't know how to pray. And I think that might be a lot of people.
Yeah, I do. I think that for many people, and the different types of prayers we explore are so beneficial. But maybe before we dive into one of them, just talk about your relationship with prayer. Mm-hmm. What is it? Why is it important? How does it get fleshed out in your life? And yeah, just because I think almost to set the level playing field for anybody who's kind of coming in going, I think I know what prayer is, or I think I know why I pray, or I think we should pray. What is it to you?
Okay, so we talk a ton about, I mean, this podcast is about taking the idea of formation and making it accessible to anybody, right? Like, formation is not a stream. It's not like a singular thing just a few people do. But in the same way, what I've come to believe and understand is prayer isn't a part of formation. Prayer is formation. Like, if you look at Jesus, one, we should be praying because our rabbi did. Like, this is what Jesus did. You see it weaved throughout his life. He prayed consistently, constantly. This was before big decisions. This was part of his life. It was a way in which he existed. So I don't think he can be formed without prayer. We often think about prayer as, even in the frameworks we're going to teach, you know, we know the petition part. We ask for stuff. But what we're really doing in prayer is building a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And through the relationship, we are formed, right? I have this little book. It's 101 Conversations for Date Nights with Chrissy. And so oftentimes when we go on a date night, I'll pack that book in my back pocket, and it just gives us good starter conversations. I actually think about all these forms of prayer that we're going to be processing over the next 5 weeks in similar ways. It's the the guide. It isn't about me getting through the 101 questions. That's not the point. The point is these little tools actually allow the relationship to sort of blossom, brings about things that maybe questions I hadn't thought about, or puts us in places we hadn't really considered. Similarly, I think there are more than 5 forms of prayer. The 5 things we're going to talk about: adoration and confession, and we're going to talk about lament, petition, thanksgiving. These are all about ultimately forging a relationship with God. I mean, that's the point, right? Is a relationship. So
Explain this to me, because I think that there's people who are listening who are so, they've been a part of the follow-up fam, like just kind of listening in. And then there's other people who are checking us out and they hear the word formation, or they think about prayer. And, you use this great example of you and Christy going on a date. Imagine you going on a date and for the entire 2.5 hours, it's just you talking.
Or me asking for things.
Or asking for things.
Yeah.
Or like, how does prayer work? And I always say this, like, often we'll be like, our producer Luke always asks these like most honest and human questions, but thinking about for like a person who doesn't have long-term church or theological training, are you asking me to like talk to myself, talk to the Spirit, talk to God? What do you ever hear anything back? What do you feel? What comes? How do you engage with that when there's new people at Plum Creek who are being introduced to the concept of prayer for the first time? How do you unpack that in regards to prayer is formation? Yeah. How do you explain that?
That's hard. Here's why. It would be like if Harry came to me, he's 18. That's my son. And he said, "Hey, Dad, can you explain to me exactly what marriage is?" Right?
Yeah.
How do you even start to describe, after 30 years, Chrissy and I have been married for 30 years, what marriage is? Because marriage is a bunch of things. It's not a singular thing. It's not just the times, the times where we were on mountaintops. It's not just the vacations. It's not just the mundane. It's not just the intimacy. It's all of these things. And in a moment, to try to describe like all of these different components of this relationship is actually a bit of a challenge. So when I think about prayer, I don't think you can describe it in one particular way.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't think describing prayer as this one thing does justice to what it is. Because at the end of the day, it is true that prayer, when we see Jesus do it consistently, this is about how we are deeply connected to God in a multitude of ways. But that is why beginning to explore it from a multitude of ways is exceedingly important. That would, it's like, again, the stat on prayer is when Barna's asked people, do they pray? There's a lot of people who pray, but that's only because they describe prayer in a very specific way, and that is to ask God, I need you to do something for me. And what we're looking at is how to explore prayer from this relational component that looks more like marriage and less like, just a singular request. Yep. What does that look like to build a relationship with this God that knows you, who has formed you, who thought you up? And that is the essence of prayer. And that is why it's going to take more than a sentence for us, right? It's going to take, over the next 5 weeks, I'm really hopeful that people will dial in. And what we're going to teach in the next 5 weeks, hopefully, is a little bit like the 101 conversation books. Yeah. It teaches you ways to engage with God, to build a relationship, and through that relationship, the formation of your heart and your spirit and your soul begins to happen. So it's hard to describe it beyond, hey, this is a relationship. This is about a connection. It's about something deeper than just a request, so that you really can get in touch with the God who knows you.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think each of these postures that we're going to explore.
I like that word too, postures.
It's
That's
a good
good.
word. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Each of these postures we'll explore with prayer. You will be surprised, because what often the tide of today, or the current of today, works really, really hard to make us more closed off to ourselves,
Sure.
to the Spirit, to each other.
Yeah.
In what these postures, and what I think, honestly, the fruit of formation of prayer is making us wildly more open to God's presence, to God's perspective, making us more open as people to another, to ourselves, to our pain or our grief, or to the present moment that's right before us, to even just to owning when we've actually gotten something wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like this portal to a deeper level of presence with the God of all creation and with ourselves. And just the way you said that, it's like, oh, and so I think sometimes when we think of prayer, it's like hands come together, head bowed, eyes closed, both feet touching the ground, and there's something in there, but even it's just that innately has us like closed off to what's happening around us, rather than what prayer is really doing is it's so expansive to help us understand that God is closer than our very breath. And how do we stay open in adoration, or in thanksgiving, or stay open in confession or lament, or even in our petition. And so
I think it's going to be really great. I think about, so often we have this idea of I'll hear Christians talk about a prayer life. Like, I have a prayer life, which I think is like, oh, this thing that I do in the morning for a few minutes. And, I don't know, a lot of people are like, well, I don't really have a prayer life, or I don't know how to do that practice. And I don't know if it's sort of like saying, do you have a marriage life? I'm like, well, I'm married.
Yeah.
It's all my life.
Yeah.
I'm not married when I go to the Broncos game, and I'm not married when Chrissy doesn't happen to be with me. I'm married all the time. And I think for myself, I'm trying to move towards maybe a better understanding of prayer, maybe in that perspective. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Does that sort of make sense?
1,000%. I mean, again, theological frameworks I think are helpful, at least for me. But if you think about in the Hebrew scriptures, what we know as the Old Testament, you would go to a temple, and depending on if you were a priest, a Jewish male, Jewish woman, or a Gentile, you could only get so close to the presence of God. And the great reality of Matthew, when Jesus dies, that temple curtain is torn.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of Jesus coming was to give us access to our Creator, which means like the preacher on Sunday, or the worship leader on Sunday, and the listener driving in their Honda Civic has the same level of access to their Creator, not because of a professional title, but
Totally.
because of what was done
Yep.
on the cross and on Easter in the empty tomb. And so I think part of it is like so much of us, I think we come like almost like I got to do this well to get access
Yeah, right.
without realizing like, oh no, like you already have access because you're already married. Like you have
That's right.
access
Right.
because of what has been done. And I think prayer is kind of awakening and opening to that reality. Like the creator actually wants to hear from us.
Yep.
All of it.
Yep.
The lament to the petition, to the confession, to adoration and everything in between. So
I love that.
yeah.
Well, and I think, you're a pastor. I'm a pastor. Our goal is to teach prayer as this foundational component of the relationship. Like, you have access, but there's something that you have to do. As Dallas said once, I heard him say, without Jesus, you can do nothing. But if you do nothing, it will be without Jesus. In other words, like, yeah, totally, you have access, but how do we then access the access?
Yes.
And I really do believe the next 5 weeks of teaching us these frameworks of prayer are really key for every person who truly is trying to follow Jesus, trying to be transformed. This prayer practice is how we access the access.
I just love how you said that. I'm gonna think about that for a while. The practice of prayer is learning how to access the access we already have.
Quick stats on prayer. 44% of Americans pray every day. This is what Barna said. 2/3 of the country prays with some regularity, or at least this is what they say. Okay? So when people say nobody prays anymore, that's actually not true. That isn't true. People are praying. The question is, what are they praying? And what you find at the center of our prayers is we don't really know about adoration or confession. We actually only know one type of prayer, and it's petition. And that's important. We're going to talk about petition, but we actually talk about it at the very end. Like, if you think about the process of prayer, there is something that happens when we first acknowledge who it is that we're talking to. And so when I think about adoration, honestly, this is the true setup that takes me out of being the center of the universe, right? Most of my prayers have me at the center when it's petition. And that's okay. We're invited to bring our prayers. But I think there's something that happens to us when we stop for a minute and we realize who we're talking to, like truly realize it. And that's what adoration does. Like, if you look at like the framework of adoration, it is just acknowledging who God is, how big he is, how wonderful he is, how amazing he is. Like, there is something that sets us straight when we walk into the relationship and we don't start with me at the center. Really, adoration in a bunch of ways is putting rightfully God back into the center of all of it. Like, he is the thing, right? He is the dude. He is the light. He is the source. And so it does do something to our mental framework. And I do think when you look at the Lord's Prayer, we look at our rabbi and how he prayed, he sets this up from the jump. He says, "Our Father who art in heaven." He doesn't say, "Me who is in heaven," me who has, the things that I want. He goes, no, you are in heaven. And I do think that for me, learning a particular rhythm of adoration has been important because, like I said, it sets my heart straight. It lets me know who I'm talking to. And honestly, there is a particular practice that I follow, which we'll unpack. But I think, to your question, why do we need to do this is because I honestly think most of the time I live with me at the center of the universe. I don't mean to I don't know if I mean to, but I don't, in a given day, with the hundreds of the tens of thousands of thoughts that I have, they're mostly about me and what I want, what I don't have, where I want to go. I'll be honest. I love you, Carter. I probably just don't think much about you in a day. I
Right.
really don't. I'm not going, I wonder what should I do for
Right.
Steve today?
Right.
Well, like the, I am the center of my own universe, and adoration is really important because it sets the stage for the reality of how the whole wide world works. At least that's how I think about it.
Yeah. No, I think it's really, really good. Richard Foster, his book on prayer. I remember the first time I read it, I literally put it down. I stopped reading it.
Oh, you did.
And it wasn't, and the reason I stopped reading it, no shade on Richard Foster, but he was talking about the human condition.
Yeah.
And he just said, people who are beginning at prayer will start with prayers with them at the center.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I want to learn how to pray. Why are we talking about this? And so I put the book down. And it wasn't until like I got to the point where as you grow in your faith and your maturity, you actually begin to realize you're no longer at the center and God is at the center.
It's huge.
But he was naming the natural tendency is we center ourselves in prayer, all of a sudden, oh wait, maybe somebody else is at the center. Oh wait, maybe God is at the center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to trust that God's at the center. And there's just this progression and formation when it comes to prayer, the practice of prayer.
Absolutely.
When you think about adoration,
Yeah.
Eric, like you talked about a specific framework that you have, are they phrases that like jolt you to the point to get you? Is it scripture? Is it a certain posture? What does that look like for you? And how does it play out?
In Isaiah, there's this passage in Isaiah 6, where it's like, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty." I think starting with, it's not holy, holy, holy is Eric and his needs and wants. Like, there is this God, regardless of what he's ever done for me, who is holy, and the whole earth is full of his glory. Like, setting myself straight to just go, hold on. Like, the God of the universe, who thought all of this up, like thought it all up, who thought me up. I'm about to talk to him. So I need to like understand for a second. Oh, he really is like holy and perfect and good. And we did a prayer practice at the church where we were walking people through this first, like, just acknowledging his greatness. And one of the prompts we used, if you saw what Isaiah saw, what would you say? Mm-hmm. Like, for real, like in your words. I know we don't normally use the word holy, but if you could truly see how big and grand and great the creator of the universe was, what would you say to that? Yeah. And for me, I try really hard to recreate it in my words. Like, what do I say to this? There is something that happens when I stop and realize, oh, there is this God who has traced all of this out, all of it. What would I say about him? Yeah. How do I articulate it in my words? I'm better writing my prayers than I am, like, I get lost in my own sauce when I'm just like thinking. And so just walking through the practice of like, oh, okay, this is how I would describe it. This is how I would describe his holiness. And I think that's important because sometimes it does move to another part of, for me. I do want to think about his faithfulness to me, but I always start with how big he is and how holy he is and how grand he is, regardless of what he's ever done for me. This is the God of the universe. And that's sort of like a big deal. Yeah. So that's one of the ways in which I start to frame who I'm talking to. And that is adoration. That's a big part of adoration.
Yeah. It's interesting. In fact, you think about, you going to meet your wife's parents for the first time. I mean, these are the people who made Chrissy.
Yeah.
These are the people who love her,
Yeah.
have raised her. What did you wear? What did you think about going into that first conversation?
Yeah.
You know, it's a sense of, in one piece, I think one whole generation made God so distant
Yeah.
because he was
For
just
real.
so powerful.
Right. Right.
And then another generation, it got to a point like, Jesus is my buddy.
Yeah.
Like, and it
Put them
got
in my
so,
pocket.
so personal. I think there's this managing of the tension, but for almost 2,000 years, one of the primary ways that the liturgy has been shaped and formed has been based on Isaiah 6.
Absolutely.
So starting with a pronouncement of, we are about to enter into the holiness of God, and to give yourself silence and space to prepare your heart and your mind for just even slowing it down before any words come out of my mouth. It's just like, do you know what you're standing before?
Bro, this is so key. Andrew Newberg, he's a neuroscientist. He's done a ton of work on how things work. Listen to this, that during adoration, like when we're doing this, what you just described, the activity in the parietal lobe, is that how you say it? Is it the parietal lobe, the parietal lobe? I'm not a neuroscientist, but this lobe of your brain, right? That part of the brain that constructs your sense of self and separates you from the world, it measurably decreases. While the frontal lobe, which focuses attention, it lights up, right? There's something that happens where it actually takes the attention off of us. It makes our brain go, wait a minute. I am not the most important thing in the whole wide world, even though I think about me all the time, right? So like adoration literally turns down the part of your brain that makes you the protagonist. It turns it down. You stop being the protagonist of the story. And it's exceedingly important in terms of understanding our place in the world, who God is. And we've talked about this before. The reason why that's important is because then we start to realize, well, maybe all of this isn't on me. Maybe I'm not the one that has to secure my own safety, secure my own future. Like maybe there is something bigger than me that cares for me, that walks alongside me. And my insistence of managing it and controlling it, it actually starts to decrease in these moments of adoration. The simple process of Isaiah 6 and going, you're holy and you're big and you're important. It actually does stuff to me to help me understand. And there's something in that creates a sense of safety, belonging, connectivity, that when it's only about me and it's only my stuff. I mean, I'm sure I have been to dinners where someone has asked me how I'm doing and I just word vomit all about me and realize by the time I went home, I never asked about the other person. Never, because I'm so focused on me and my stuff because I live with it. Yep. Adoration jars me out of it for a minute, right? Goes, oh, wait a minute. It isn't all on me. There is a God that does love me. He is walking with me. And it does actually do something to your nervous system.
Yeah. And you think about, again, liturgy then being to inform, and we talked about this, in the first few episodes of the follow-up series. We're just talking about liturgy as rehearsal.
Yeah.
When you start to kind of rehearse the Isaiah 6, but you walk into a church service, for so many, many years, the hymns and the songs that we sang were all to lift our head, to lift our eyes up, to have this sense of, the amazing grace.
Yep.
To sing the songs like about the character and the nature of God. It's interesting though. Now we're in a season that some of the worship songs are driven more around even centering ourselves, or even like
yeah.
centering a characteristic about God that's not even true. I was talking to another pastor, and he's like, why would we even sing that he could not, he can't fail? Like, why would, like, like
Yeah.
we fail,
Yeah.
he can't. But like,
Yeah.
and he just went on this massive riff on that. And he's like, all that does is it brings your head down. When healthy adoration makes you see above the malaise and the mundane of self and today, and there's a moment to like then have the reflection of where I am and where God is and all of that, but to start with just how amazing it is.
For those of you that don't know, Steve Carter is as devoted a Chicago sports fan.
Go Cubs, go.
He is so devoted. But you talked about the early days of that team that won the World Series, right? 2016?
2016.
And how the general manager, Theo Epstein, how the three of them sort of shared credit. It has a little bit of this like buttered up. Tell that story because I think that's kind of a cool story.
So Theo Epstein, general manager, the Tom Ricketts, who was the owner, and then Joe Madden, who was the coach. And not going to try to compare them to the Trinity, but I will just for a moment. Is they made a pact, they made a disagreement that they would share the favor. And so if somebody said, hey, man, Ricketts, you're the best owner in baseball. And he goes, I just write checks. I write checks about who Theo thinks we should sign. And I trust that we have the best coach and developer talent in Joe Madden. And then Joe Madden, you're the greatest coach. Well, I only can coach the players that are paid for, that Ricketts writes the checks for, and that Theo scouts and believes will help us reach our goal. And if you actually look at the way that Father, Son, and Holy Spirit interact, Jesus says, and I only do what I see my Father doing. He says that it's good for me to go, that there's one even greater than I that is coming. The Father saying, this is my Son in whom I love and whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. Like the shared adoration, even between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This is not something where they're like, just give me glory. This was a practice that they actually practiced in communing and connection with one another. And I think for me, there's something so beautiful that when you can actually really do that prayer of adoration well, you can start to see the image of God easier in others, to call that out and be less driven by scarcity and threats and more driven by the magnificent gift God created in this world and in people.
I agree. And I do think that's why I really encourage people as they're starting their journey in this relationship, access to the access. Adoration is so important. It takes you out of the center. It makes you charitable because you realize you're not fully responsible. You can be really charitable when you don't feel like you're fully responsible. Right. You have this God that's looking out for you. And I will tell people often, the second part of the framework is faithful or is important. Yes. Who is God? Start with who he is, but then go back and think about his faithfulness. When this borderlines on the prayer of thanksgiving, but there is something in adoration to recognize verbally, like, God, you have been so good to me and faithful to me. I have seen it time and time again. There's something in just thanking him for that's why I love that story, is something happens in the room when people are willing to just, share, just to share, go, look, this isn't about me. I see these things in you. And adoration is rightfully going, God, this isn't about me. And yet in your omniscience and in your perfectness and in your how much you love me, you have cared for me. Like you have genuinely showed up in all of these significant ways. I will tell you that if you just practiced adoration for a season and that's the only thing you did, it will revolutionize your life because it starts to help you understand your place in the universe. And here's what's interesting. I don't feel smaller. Me not being at the center doesn't make me feel smaller at all. It actually makes me feel held and seen. Makes me feel like I'm walking through life with the person who created all this and like he sees me. And it may not go the way that I exactly want it, but I'm pretty good with that because he's the architect of it all. And so there's something really comforting in that, right? Revolutionary in that.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, just take a moment and think, if it's all on you, how does that feel? If it's all on God, how that feels. Like feel that in your body. Like if it's all on you, just feel that in the openness and the lack of it. Or if it's all on God, oh, just that peace that comes. And so I think you're so right. But I also love then when you start to look back, and this is where adoration is going to bleed into all of the others.
Yeah, for
because sure. You're gonna have these moments, you're gonna look back and you're like, oh, thanks be to God.
Thanks.
You were with me. You never left me. You never forsake. Thanks be to God. You got me through this valley, this desert. You're going to have these moments of just profound sense of when it's hard that you actually, and I can bring anything to you. And so you're so right. It's like how adoration, why
Great setup.
it is a great setup,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden you're going on this path, and then it's like it's like going down a lazy river. You're starting with yourself, and then all of a sudden, oh, Thanksgiving comes.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, all of a sudden, like confession comes. All of a sudden, oh, petitions come, and yet you get to see it from a place of a God who is on high and who is holding it all together.
It's huge.
It's beautiful.
It's the setup. And I think that's why we wanted to kick off the series with this. And I like the way that Luke, our producer, talks about it. And Carter, you said this about how do we say it with a touch in the bottom of the pool? Is that how we say it? Touch the bottom, of the pool? So I don't either, really. Luke says he doesn't understand it, but I think it's such a beautiful
We're so
saying.
good at skimming the surface, but when you can get down to like actually like it's like taking all the meat off the bone.
Yeah.
You're getting to like the
thing.
Yeah.
So here's the invitation for our listeners. Before you do anything, one, you understanding prayers, this is foundational to you moving beyond acting like a Christian and becoming someone where these things just naturally flow out of you. What if you took one verse, 1 minute, one breath, you pick one attribute of God this week? Just this it, not holy or faithful or eternal or good. And you just sit with it on the way to work. Like as you're done with this podcast, what's the one thing? You just sit with that one thing. Replay that thing on your mind. Just don't ask for anything. Just like notice. And that honestly, that practice, whether you know it or not, that is prayer. And this is the doorway. This is the access to the access. So maybe you'll try it this week. Try one verse, 1 minute, one breath, pick an attribute of God and see what happens.
So good. The one I often regularly come back to is Zephaniah 3:17. And it says, the Lord God is with us. He's mighty to save. He takes great delight in you. He rejoices over you with singing, and he'll quiet you and remind you of his love. And I can read that and I can center myself very, very easily. But then when I take a step back and I go, this is a God who is with people. This is a God who is mighty to rescue.
Yeah.
This is a God who delights in his kids. This is a God who sings over us.
Wow.
This is a God who, in my anxiety, reminds me I'm loved. Just saying this is a God, and then to be able to like flip it and go, this is my God.
Wow.
Just and it's just one simple verse, just like you said. But like if you can find that, and that might work for a month or two, and then you got to dig a new well and have another verse where it's like Isaiah 6, and you're like, you need a word like holy, holy, like you need
Yeah.
something that wakes you up. Great. And then maybe you just listen to even people, the way that they start prayers. Blessed be the name of the Lord. The name of the Lord. A name above every name. Like you just start to see it. And I think take a verse, like Eric's saying, sit in it, and then just bring that level of appreciation and adoration and of like who God truly is, and watch how it pulls you farther away from the center. And as Eric says, puts you in your rightful place.
I love that. Well, maybe this week you guys will try it. And this is formational to formation. So I hope you will. I hope you'll dig in. And I do hope you'll tune in over the next 4 weeks, because we're going to keep sort of peeling back the onion on what prayer looks like. It's going to be pretty cool. So that's going to do it for today. If something landed for you in this conversation, don't just let it sit. Take it with you. Carry it into your week. Talk about it with somebody. Let it do something in you. And if you want to go deeper, click on the link in the show notes. We'll be back soon with more. So until then, keep following up.